Let's have a look at how I did my bottle. This is my bottle in drawing mode, and Command Y. This is what it looks like in preview mode, and I'm going to just slide this off and make another bottle. I definitely need certain tools. I'm going to need the pen set, so I'll take this whole set of tools and tear it off. I need some shapes, so I'll take the shapes and tear that off. And I'm probably going to start with a rounded corner rectangle. I want you to work on an 8.5 by 11 artboard. I want it to be vertical or portrait. I want a bottle that nicely fits on the page, but there's going to be a couple other things that we want to stick on this page or this artboard, so leave some space at the top. I'll show you why shortly. So I'll take a rounded corner rectangle because I know a bottle doesn't actually have any sharp corners, although come to think of it, about 50 years ago, there was a men's cologne product called 9 Flags, and there were 9 different varieties. They were all named for countries. They had the flags of the country on the packaging, and the bottles' shapes were all spherical with a long stem, something like that. Even though it was mostly just a sphere and a cylinder, I'm pretty sure, I'm going to unite these, Pathfinder, I'm going to need Pathfinder also. Let me just pull that off. I'm going to unite these. And I'm pretty sure that the bottle did not have a perfectly sharp corner because the way glass is blown, I don't think it's possible to do that without forming a weak point right at the junction. So probably your bottle shouldn't have any really sharp corners. I'm going to stick an anchor point here and here and probably take out that one. And more than likely, if a bottle came together this way, it would stick one more in so that it doesn't move. Okay, so more than likely there would be some slight radius there. There's no way that you can blow a glass bottle and have that perfectly sharp there because I'm going to put a stroke on this bottle. Actually, I'll just switch this and we'll make this a few points thick to represent the thickness of the glass. And then I'm going to expand the stroke to form a new object. And this is great in theory, but in practice, probably if this is a sharp corner here, this would probably not blow that sharp. It would probably thin out right in that area and the neck would be prone to breakage. So there would always be some sort of radius on the outside. Okay, I'm going to get rid of that. That's not the bottle I'm doing. I start with a cylinder section with rounded corners because I know that it's going to be rounded on the bottom. I don't try to draw the bottle with a rounded bottom because in 3D I wouldn't be making a bottle. I'd be making something like a CO2 cylinder where it doesn't have a flat spot to stand on. This should look like a regular bottle in elevation view. If you cut a bottle in half and looked at it with your eye centered on the bottle, this is what you should see. A rectangular section probably. You should see it would have some sort of neck. Maybe there'd be a round section here. Maybe there'd be an elliptical section up here. If it's like a beer bottle, it'd be sort of like this, and there might be a little smaller room up there like that. And then I would take all of these and use a line to center them all. And I might make this a bit longer here. It's looking more like a bottle. And then take all of those and just merge them into a single object. And don't use the Option key, just unite them into a single object. I want to look at this in wireframe and see how many anchor points I have, because having lots of anchor points will be a problem in the way these things are created. Right here there's some strange stuff going on. Maybe my circle wasn't exactly lined up, so I'm going to just get rid of extra anchor points. I don't need this one here probably. Although I might, I'm going to put those back in, Command Z, and add an anchor point right here, and then delete that one so I have a smoother transition from one shape to another. Up here, I might want to just get rid of these shapes in here, so I don't want a round rectangle for that. I want a square, oh there it is, a square rectangle for that, and I just want to cut this off of here or blend those in. Let's try that. Okay, that's pretty good. Likewise, right in here, I probably don't want a really sharp corner in there. So I'm going to add an anchor point here and here. And I'll do the same on the other side, although I'm actually going to get rid of half this bottle. Because the way this revolve works is sort of like you're turning something on a lathe. And when you turn something on a lathe, you rest your carving tool on a little platform on the lathe, a rest, and move it in and out as you go across the wood. And the wood is spinning so that whatever line you are cutting across there cuts all the way around the wood. And that's pretty much the way Illustrator draws this stuff, as though you have a single profile for half of a bottle. And to do that, I'm going to draw another rectangle here and try to go right down the middle of this. Select both of these and minus front, Command Y. So there's half of a bottle. You know, this is a little tall for what I'm planning to do, so I might just shorten the neck some. That might be good. The way you get it to look like there's a liquid inside the glass is you have two shapes. One shape you can make from the fill, and one shape you make from the stroke. So let's say this is going to be my stroke, and I want it as thick as the plastic or the glass of the bottle that I'm creating, let's say about that big. I'm not going to need this line here, so just delete that, because I don't want there to be a line down the middle of the inside of my bottle that may show. I'll give it a fill based on whatever color the content of the bottle is going to be. Let's say this stuff is red. At this point I want to expand this to create a new shape from the stroke. Object, expand, stroke and fill. And then, because I'm going to do something else that will make it seem like there's an airspace in the bottle, I want this to exactly butt one to the other. And right now, you see a line down the middle, and if I Command-Shift-G ungroup that, select only my bottle and send it to the back, you can see that there's an overlap there. Command-Z undo that. So I'm going to select both of these and use Pathfinder trim probably to make one object trim the other so they exactly fit together. Now I won't have the odd appearance of my content, my bottle content, my liquid, appearing to be half within the glass and half inside the glass. Next I want an airspace, and once again I would just take a rectangle, select the rectangle. Make sure the rectangle is the same color, because usually what happens is after you do this it gets to be one color or the other, and I don't want it to end up being the green. So select both of those and minus front again. I forgot. Command-Shift-G. Anytime you use any of the Pathfinders, it creates a new group. So I'm going to make sure I have only that inside part and this, and minus front, and now there's an airspace in my bottle. The next thing I want to do is I'd like to open my bottle. And if you put a cap on the bottle, this may not even show, so it may not matter. But I'm going to put a rectangle over that and minus front that. And then I don't need these little things in here, which will make my bottle probably dribble. So I'll just get rid of all these anchor points. And I might get rid of that one and these. And that's probably, maybe that's okay. Probably more like what the inside of the neck would be. I might just grab these two anchor points, move them over a little, round off the top of this by dragging that and making it round. And I might want to, oops, see another anchor point there I didn't know about. Get rid of that one. That's what one section through my bottle looks like. Now I just have to make it go around in circles. How do we do that? Illustrator has three 3D effects: extrude and bevel, revolve, and rotate. I'm sure you've all seen extrude and bevel. Here's some type, effect, 3D, extrude and bevel. And I can adjust the light intensity. When you first open this, you'll probably see it with no options to speak of. You can have a wireframe, no shading, diffuse shading, plastic shading. I usually use the plastic shading. It usually gives more interesting lighting effects. Turn that up a little that way. Increase the perspective. No, that's not extreme enough. Let's try there. Okay. You can change the extrusion depth. More options. You can change the lighting. So for example, maybe I want a light here. I can add another light here. I could stick one over here and make it a backlight. Maybe not that way. Put this one over here as an edge light and one about here. You can increase the ambient light, which is the light other than your spotlight. You can increase the highlight intensity. I wouldn't bother with blend steps. 25 blend steps is plenty for what we're doing. More blend steps will slow down your computer. Less blend steps, you may start to get banding rather than smooth gradients. Shading color of black is fine. Could try something else. For instance, with this, maybe something in the purple range that would be the complement of that color. So that's 3D extrude. I didn't give it a bevel. This would be a rounded bevel. Or you could give it like a complex bevel or a cove bevel. And you can change the height of the bevel. If you go too far, strange things happen. Sometimes, depending on the size of your object, you can't go very far with these effects. High rounded or tall rounded usually looks pretty good. And again, if I just start going up with my arrows on the keyboard, clicking this up in steps a point at a time until I get to a point where bad things happen and say, well, I can't go that far, so maybe it'd be there. So that's extrude and bevel. Another one is rotate, and for rotate, I think I want a picture. So here's a Chicago picture. And what you can do with 3D rotate is move that as a flat object around in space. If you needed to do that to add it into some sort of layout where you want it in perspective. If you want perspective, you might have to increase the perspective angle to get it to actually converge. You want that on a table. It's going to be a tabletop. It's going to be something like that. So that's rotate. To make a bottle, you're going to use revolve, and I'll give you an example of revolve. I'll make a perfect circle. I might need two of these. Make this one a little smaller, and I'm going to make it donut colored. Yep, that's a donut. In topology, a donut is a shape called a torus. It's an object that has a hole on the outside as opposed to a hole on the inside. Effect 3D revolve, and you can see that 3D revolve, if I have a circle and I rotate it around either its left side or its right side, there's the left side, there's the right side, it will make something like that. It'll make a torus. It'll make a donut. If I want a bigger space in the middle, I can increase the offset from whence it is rotated. You can turn that into a donut, or I could make it into an inner tube. Actually, if it's a donut, it probably wouldn't have plastic shading, would it? That'd be a little weird. So, donut. If I take half of that, and I'll just grab this anchor point with my direct select tool and delete it, put my donut over here, and effect 3D revolve. Okay, this is rotated around the left edge, and there's a name for that shape, but I can't remember what it is. It's not a sphere. If I rotate around the right edge, I get a sphere. Now, an interesting problem is if you had a red sphere, let's make it a brighter red. I've got a red sphere and I want the sphere to be exactly half black. How would I do that? I don't have a half black, half red color here. I suppose I could do it with a gradient. I don't think that would work that well. What you can do to add something to the surface is if I had a black rectangle, black, no stroke, and I drag that rectangle to my symbol palette, it makes it into a symbol. And we'll say it's a graphic. Static symbol. Okay, there it is. It's a black square. I can add that to my sphere as something that is art that is mapped to the surface. What I cannot do is go back to the Effect pull down and apply 3D Revolve again. If I need to edit that 3D Revolve, I cannot go back to the pull down. This is what will cause you to enter the twilight zone where you're trying to get the computer to create a 9-dimensional object and your system will freeze. And the only thing you'll be able to do is hopefully quit the software. You may have to shut off the machine and reboot it because it goes into this infinite loop that is not recoverable. The only way to edit these is to go to the Appearances palette. This little spot over here with a dotted line around it, this is the Appearance palette. And here in the Appearance palette, it shows everything I've done to the object. It has no stroke, it has a fill. On these objects, you don't want to use a stroke. Strokes will cause you problems. You just want to fill with no stroke. The opacity is solid. I could make it transparent, but I won't. 3D Revolve. If I click on this, it will reopen the 3D Revolve dialog. This is the only way to access it without screwing up everything. Map art. A sphere has one surface. This is the surface opened up like a Mercator projection on a map of the globe where they cut it apart and spread it out flat. This is what the globe looks out spread out flat. The light area represents the part of the globe that is facing the viewer. The gray area represents the part that is hidden. Symbol. I created a symbol and here it is, new symbol. If I put this symbol here, I'm going to hold the shift key to constrain. I probably don't have to. I want to make this exactly half of this sphere. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12 of these. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right here is exactly half of that sphere. And I'll say OK. And then if I turn this, I should have a sphere that is half black and half red. For Project 8A, you are going to create a bottle and you're going to create a label that you are going to put on that bottle using map art.